He didn't just spill water, he spilled arrogance. When an entitled billionaire mocked a black waitress for ruining his genius work, the whole restaurant laughed with him. She said nothing, only stared at the scribbled equations he called impossible. Then he smirked, "Solve this and I'll give you everything I own." Laughter erupted again. But that night she memorized his formula, every line, every flaw. Weeks later, as he stood before millions bragging about his brilliance, she walked on stage with quiet fury and one sentence that erased his empire. Because the waitress he humiliated was the mind he could never match. The restaurant glittered with gold fixtures, champagne laughter, and the kind of arrogance money breeds. Every table was filled with people pretending to matter. At table 12, one man didn't have to pretend, Leon Mercer, billionaire inventor, mathematician, and walking headline. He leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine while 3 journalists fawned over him. "Genius," one said. "Visionary," another whispered. Leon smiled. He agreed. At that moment, a waitress approached with quiet precision. Kendra Miles balanced a tray of water glasses, her movements exact. Years ago, she'd balanced equations like these, back when she was at MIT. Before her scholarship collapsed, before her mother's illness, before life decided intellect didn't always mean access. She reached Leon's table. As she set a glass down, a drop splashed onto a page of his notes. Leon froze. The journalists gasped. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "Do you have any idea what this is?" Kendra straightened. "A page of calculations." "Calculations?" he repeated with mock laughter. "This formula is worth more than your annual salary, if you even have one." The table erupted in forced laughter. Kendra remained calm. "I'm sorry for the spill, sir," Leon smirked. "Sorry doesn't fix ignorance." He tore the page free, turned it toward her, and jabbed his pen at it. "Here, since you've ruined it, why not redeem yourself? Solve this line. I'll give you everything I own." The journalists laughed harder. One whispered, "He's brilliant." Kendra studied the page. It was a complex proof, unsolved, raw, beautiful. A ghost of memory stirred inside her, the same equations she once dreamed of solving. She memorized every symbol, every number, every mistake hidden beneath his ego. "Understood," she said quietly. Leon chuckled. "What, taking notes for the next table?" She smiled faintly. "No, just finishing the problem." The room laughed again as she walked away. That night, Kendra sat in her tiny apartment surrounded by notebooks, receipts, and unpaid bills. The equation wouldn't leave her. His arrogance replayed in her mind like static. She began to write. Hours bled into dawn. The equation unraveled in her hands. He'd missed something, a simple oversight disguised as brilliance. A constant misplaced, a logic loop that didn't close. His unsolvable formula was an illusion built on his own pride. By sunrise, she'd solved it. Completely. 3 weeks later, Leon Mercer stood before 1,000 cameras at the Global Mathematics Symposium in New York. His voice thundered through the auditorium. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we redefine the boundaries of logic. Today, we prove the impossible." Kendra stood in the crowd wearing the same uniform he mocked. Her badge read catering staff. He unveiled the same formula, his Mercer equation, the one she'd memorized down to its final decimal. "I challenge anyone," Leon declared, "to correct this, to question it, to find fault with it. You won't, because there is none." The audience applauded. Kendra waited. Then, as silence followed the ovation, she stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said clearly. Heads turned. Security hesitated. Leon frowned. "Who let you—" "You said there's no error," she interrupted softly. "But there is." Laughter filled the hall again. "Oh no," Leon sneered. "It's the waitress." "Tell me, are you here to refill my glass or correct my math?" Kendra looked straight at him. "Both, apparently." The crowd chuckled. Leon smirked. "Then enlighten us." She took the marker from his trembling hand and wrote on the board, one swift correction. Gasps rippled through the hall. Equations collapsed in real time. Leon's expression drained as her proof replaced his. "This constant," she said, "invalidates the symmetry you based your proof on." which means your conclusion isn't revolutionary. It's incorrect. The silence was nuclear. Leon whispered, "That's not possible." "Neither is arrogance creating truth," she replied. The audience erupted, some in disbelief, others in applause. Mathematicians crowded the stage, verifying her solution. Every one of them reached the same result. She'd done it. She'd solved the unsolvable. Leon staggered back, red-faced. "You must have stolen my notes." Kendra's voice was calm. "You handed them to me, remember?" The auditorium lights seemed to tremble. Journalists pushed forward. One shouted, "Miss, who are you?" Kendra smiled faintly. "No one important. Just the woman who finished what he couldn't." By the next morning, every news outlet in the world carried the headline, "Waitress solves billionaire's equation, destroys his empire overnight. Investors fled." His tech firm plummeted, and invitations poured in for Kendra. Universities, think tanks, NASA, all wanting the mind he'd tried to belittle. A month later, she stood on the same stage, this time as guest of honor. Her talk was titled, "The Geometry of Grace." "You don't fight arrogance by matching its volume," she said. "You dismantle it with proof." In the audience, Leon sat quietly in the back row, uninvited but unescorted. When she finished, the room stood to applaud her. He remained seated, staring at the floor. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed, Kendra walked past him. He looked up. "You win," he muttered. "You're brilliant," she paused. "I always was. You just couldn't see past the tray." He opened his mouth to speak, but she was already gone, her heels clicking softly like punctuation at the end of a lesson he'd never forget. Outside, reporters waited under a clear Manhattan sky. Cameras flashed. "Dr. Miles," one called. "What would you say to others who've been dismissed or underestimated?" Kendra smiled. "Remember this. Power can buy applause, but it can't buy understanding. And genius doesn't need permission to exist." The city roared around her. Somewhere behind her, Leon's empire collapsed. But in front of her stretched a horizon shaped not by wealth, but by truth. Because the mind he mocked didn't just solve his problem, it solved the illusion that he was untouchable. If you believe brilliance doesn't need permission to shine, stand with truth today. Like this video, share it everywhere, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what moment hit hardest. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because arrogance fades fast, but dignity outlasts every empire.